You said something really important at the beginning, which is you used the word MAGA 2.0, and I actually think that that's the right observation. MAGA 2.0 is a very different coalition than MAGA 1.0, which is explains, I think, why they did so well at the polls. And the way that I describe it in my own framework is MAGA 2.0 are the working and middle class people that are asset light. And I think that that is important, meaning there's a lot of people that aren't getting stock options, that don't work at a startup, that don't necessarily own a home and are still renting, that don't have these overflowing 401ks. And that's a lot of where the tension with the American economy and society comes from, right? So I think MAGA speaks to them. I think they now speak to patriotic business owners. And they also were able to get these tech leaders and innovators. That's a really unique coalition. And I think that that is very discombobulating for the Democrats. And I think it explains a little bit why they're on their heels and a little confused and don't exactly know how to react in any moment. But that MAGA 2.0 coalition, if it holds, I think is multi-generationally relevant.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, Jason, what you say purple, not red. So what was the red that was mixed in with your former blue that made you purple now? Like what specifically was it that made you start migrating a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a moderate, and I've voted, like I said, maybe living in New York and in California most of my life. I didn't have the opportunity to vote for a Republican that many times, but about 1 out of 3 I voted Republican. And having lived in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, you don't have to do too much research to see how far the woke left and these like radical socialist kind of borderline communists in San Francisco, how ineffective they've been at running those cities. Watching New York go from when I grew up in the 70s and 80s being pretty dangerous, then Giuliani and Bloomberg cleaning the place up, and then now, gosh, it's just gone back into chaos every time I go to New York. And I left San Francisco and I live now on a horse ranch here in Texas, in Austin. And it's a lovely purple combination, I think, of what I loved about New York, LA, and San Francisco. And this Texas culture, which it feels to me like the pure American culture, which is, it's great to be an entrepreneur. It's great to celebrate entrepreneurship and creation, which is the business I'm in. I invest in 100 new companies per year, as well as doing 4 podcasts a week. So I'm kind of like a broadcaster and an angel investor. And I really was disheartened by what I saw happen with the Democratic Party and how they related to entrepreneurs specifically. Myself, Elon, Joe Rogan, Chamath, we're all Democrats or left-leaning, right? We believed in freedom, supporting gay rights, supporting a woman's right to choose, these kind of issues. And then the Democratic Party basically kicked Joe Rogan out. They kicked Elon out, and none of us passed their ridiculous woke mind virus test. And I'm for freedom. I'm for freedom of speech. I'm a Second Amendment fan. And that party just went so far left. So I feel like I've always been right here in the middle, fiscally responsible, kind of Clinton Democrat. And then I feel like the Democratic Party just went off the deep end. Like I'm not down with, giving surgery to children who are confused about their gender. Like that's crazy. If you ask 100 parents, 99 would say, are you crazy giving surgery to a child who's confused and has gender dysphoria? That's crazy. And now we're seeing many countries in Europe and in fact here in the United States, some states saying, hey, yeah, no more of this. And doctors are being sued, and the detransitioning movement is just heartbreaking. Why wouldn't a child wait till they're 18, 19, 20 years old? So those were kind of the issues that pushed me out of the Democratic Party. And, with Trump and some of the things he does, I don't agree with. But when he put his agenda out for, this term, with the exception, again, we talked about it before, of taking hardworking, non-criminal immigrants out of the country, which I think would cause massive inflation and all kinds of problems for us, and it would be cruel and inhumane. I'm down with less government. I've always been for less government. I've always been for balancing the budget as an individual, as a company, or as a country. And so when he decided he would bring, Elon, who's a close personal friend of mine, and Sachs, close personal friend of mine, and other folks in our circle into this administration to do hard work and important work around supporting entrepreneurs and stopping waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, that's kind of my wheelhouse. So if Trump's going to evolve and he's going to stop being Captain Chaos, and he's going to stop putting people like Bannon around him, and he's going to put incredible entrepreneurs and the smartest people I know around him, I have no choice but to support him, right? I don't like some of the things he does stylistically, but I don't really care about style points when it comes to the fact that I believe the country is on such an unsustainable path in terms of spending. $36 trillion in debt, adding $1 trillion or $2 trillion, and the amount of waste and fraud that's going to come out of DOGE. I mean, I've had conversations with Elon. He's been very public about it. He had a presser with Trump in the Oval Office. The stuff that's going to come out is going to be mind-boggling. The amount of grift, the amount of criminal behavior, and obviously waste and waste is just so staggering. And we have to turn this around, Megyn. If we don't get this debt under control, it's existential. You know, they have this saying, how did you go bankrupt? Slowly and then all at once. And that's where our country is. We need to stop the waste, fraud, abuse, and spending. And it's going to take collective austerity, but we have no choice. And it's going to take really bold leadership. It's unpopular to cut services. It's unpopular to stop spending. But, Trump's on a free roll right now. He is, by definition, lame duck, right? He's not running again. So I'm here for it.
I want to say one word in defense of Steve Bannon, with whom I've had a very interesting past 10 years.
Oh,
but
I
think Steve Bannon is actually very, very brilliant and was integral to Trump's, especially his first victory. But I think the second victory too. And I know you may not like him, but I know that he's had quite a hand in staffing up Trump 2.0. And he's always there behind the scenes. He's a brilliant strategist. He may not be your cup of tea. He's not everybody's, but he is very important to Trump's success and has been, in my opinion. I want to say this. On the subject of the illegals, it is 59% of the American public approved deporting all of them, not just the criminals. The criminals is way up. That's extremely high. But just anybody who's here illegally, 59%. I mean, that's huge to have 60% of the country agreeing on an issue like that. So that's why Tom Homan is saying they're all going. Now, realistically, are they all going? No, because it's impossible. We're having a difficult time even finding the ones who have committed felonies on top of being here unlawfully. It's just, that's why it was so egregious for Biden to allow them in the first place. We're just never going to get all these people. Even Homan's out this week saying, look, we've gotten a bunch of them, but it's not going as quickly as I'd like it to. And it's very frustrating for all of us. Here's one other thing. Let me ask you about this one, Chamath. I love the guys over at National Review, and they sometimes offer a sober reality to, the joy that I hear more in the Maga circles. These are conservative Republicans who are they're not anti-Trump, but they're not like super pro-Trumpy. They had a great discussion on their editor's podcast this week about what's actually going to happen to the budget, right? Trump's going to make these cutbacks, even if Elon's allowed to go wild, which, as you know, they're filing lawsuits every day to try to stop the cuts that he and Trump are doing. But let's just say they withdraw all the lawfare and all the cuts go forward, USAID, Department of Education, and on. Their point was, we're still going to run a deficit. The budget's still going to go up this year versus where it was last year. It just won't be up as much as it otherwise would have been. We're not going to touch entitlement spending. And I got to be honest, you listen and you're like, to Jason's point, slowly, and then all of a sudden, we're still going to be on that course.
We're in a really difficult spot. So I think it's important for your listeners and viewers to know this. The last couple of years, the Biden administration, and specifically Biden and Yellen, did one thing that I hope no government afterwards ever does, which is they were effectively speculating on rates. And what they did was, the Treasury's job is to finance the government, right? Their job is to go into the bond market, sell bonds, use that money, and redirect it to HHS, to Social Security, to defense, wherever. They financed it with all of this short-term paper. And part of it was they believed that inflation would be in check and interest rates in the future would fall. So whatever happened, we would be able to go back into the markets and borrow later for cheaper. It turned out that was an enormously incorrect assumption. and they should not have made that decision. So today, what Trump and Bessent have to do is extremely difficult. They have about $10 trillion. So call it, 25, 30% of our total debt we have to refinance in the next 6 to 9 months. And we're doing it against a backdrop where now inflation is ticking back up and rates are ticking back up. So why is that important? It's important because now all of a sudden, like, what does this budget bill look like and what can we actually accomplish? There's the Senate version, which is super light, and it says, let's just deal with border security and military. And then there's what sort of Trump has asked for, which is the House version, which is this quote unquote one big beautiful bill. The problem is those two things are on a collision course, and the big bill may be a little bit too early in the sense that, to exactly your point, we don't know how bad the situation is. And if Bessent goes into the market and gets clubbed over the head, and now all of a sudden we have $10 trillion that we have to borrow at 5 or 5.5%, I think it's going to be really bad for the U.S. economy, in which case there will be no choice except to make very deep cuts to in a broad-based way. So we almost need to buy some time and figure out how bad the situation is, which is why we need the air cover to sort of see how much DOGE uncovers, because that'll make the problem less at the end of the day.
4 years of crushing interest rates, runaway inflation, reckless government spending. Who's paying the price? You are. You might have bills stacking up, debt collectors on your back. It can get bad. Well, Done with Debt can be a way out. They've developed these new aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done with Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. They can go head to head with these guys, getting your balances reduced, interest rates slashed, and penalties stopped. They'll create a plan to end your debt fast and put more cash in your pocket every month. And right now, they're accepting new clients, but you need to act fast. Some credit relief programs expire. Consider a visit to Done with Debt right now before you make another payment, or call 1-888-322-1054 and speak with one of their relief strategists for free. donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.